fading skies. Tattered flags waving dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Stateside Footy, man. God damn it, I'm excited. Before we get into it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons and make sure you turn on your notification bells for all upcoming Stateside Footy content. Thanks. By the way, man, I hope you guys have enjoyed your Thursday afternoon, and I hope you guys are really excited about your weekend, because I know for a fact I am. Because it's the return of the English Premier League, and this October signals the end of the October window, and we're just 4 more weeks away from the November window. And of course, that means more U.S. men's national team soccer, and that's awesome. That's actually pretty goddamn cool, man. All right, so joining me tonight is a returning guest to the podcast, and of course, you know him on Twitter, and he's one of my favorite guests, and it's been a long time, Adam. How you been, man?
Been good, man. Been busy, but good. Really good.
Yeah, you and me.
Second grade travel soccer this year. So I'm coaching second grade travel soccer. So it's my first sojourn into soccer coaching.
Okay.
Like youth soccer coaching. It's been good. Been like hitting up everybody in my life who knows way more about soccer than me to figure out how to put together coherent stuff for second and third graders to, literally just get good at touching a soccer ball as much as possible.
Well, that's actually pretty goddamn cool. How was that experience for you? How was the second and third grade soccer treating you, man?
I've coached my girl in third, fourth grade basketball, and girls at that age are so much easier to coach, man. Like boys, I mean, man, you might have like 3/4 of a second to deliver a message. And if you can't deliver it in about 5 words, then they're gone. Like they're gonzo. And it's got totally. we know totally. Coaching. Anybody who's coached knows, like even college level coaching, when I coached college hoops, it was like, you got to go, you got to do stuff, right? You got to keep them engaged. But, high school, college, they can listen for 30 seconds a minute, but like, no. Second, third grade boys, absolutely not. Like it has to be shown. And even showing is they just kind of have to do it. You have to coach them through doing it. So it's good though. It's fun.
Well, that's great, man. I'm glad that you're doing that too, because there probably has to be something a little bit different at the youth level than what we're seeing now. And of course, you're actually a pretty you're a pretty sharp guy, right? When it comes to soccer, and it's like you understand that at that age level, it's not about beautiful soccer. It's about X's and O's. And also just actually having fun at that age group as well too, because that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
For sure.
But that being said, it's like I'm sure you've seen the ugly side of youth development as well too, right? And there has to be multiple ways to skin that cat.
Yeah, to be honest, and it's not even their fault, but like you can see almost like when we used to play video games with our friends, and you could see what way your friend figured out to like cheat the Nintendo video game, you know?
Sure,
It's like,
sure.
oh, you figured out that hack. Gotcha. Youth sports I've found to be like that. Basketball too. Like I'll just run into coaches who have these like weird hacks in second grade soccer where it just works. Like, this one guy just basically had his line of three. It's 6-on-6, right, in the field plus keeper. So it's 7v7 at this age. And he just had his 3 line of defenders at the 18 never moving. And to be honest, it's like a great strategy. Because like the way at that level, the way you're going to get opportunity is like create space. And so he would rotate almost like lacrosse, he would rotate his attackers, have them run as hard as possible, like press us, try and get turnovers, and then have his 3 defenders not learn how to like, close the line down and like keep good spacing and play second balls. It's just like, no, you 3 are at the 18, and he beat our butt, dude. But with like the most gimmicky soccer tactic, I was like, that's a good second grade tactic. I'm not going to take it because I want my guys to learn how to actually play soccer. Like,
right. No, I get you. But but that's actually quite funny to hear, because it almost feels like it's so basic in its setup, but it's also what works. Like you understand exactly the skill set that you have, and it's like, no, just stay right here on this line. Boom, that's it.
So I've been coaching baseball for the last fall ball. It's the first time my son's old enough to play coach like a kid pitch, and it's like running in youth baseball, right? I know you're a baseball guy, and it's like you can literally steal every base. Like, but are you like, what is that doing? You can create the most gimmicky base running stuff at that age group because kids just can't throw catch tag effectively,
Correct.
So it almost like, some of these coaches have like you can tell they've spent so much time on their base running stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to let kids get more swings, and we're going to do more fielding, and we're going to do more stuff that's going to like make them better. But anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Right. And it's, and I think the nexus is there's a lot of coaches that really feel like are really dead set and intent on winning. And it's like, here's the thing, man, there is a certain age level where winning matters, but then there's a certain age level where it doesn't matter at all. And you have to understand exactly why the kids are out to compete at that age to begin with. And that is, for the most part, a lot of these kids are learning how to be a part of a team for the very first time.
That's right.
And this is going to be their first introduction into a sport. And you kind of want to make a good impression with the sport, right? So they actually keep coming back. And so from that standpoint, it's like, is winning important? Sure. But what's more important than winning? Kind of making a good impression, because it's like, if this is something that you love, you kind of want to express that and put them in an environment where they're actually where it's enjoyable, where they actually want to come back. And there's a certain happiness involved with it, where they're actually excited to come back to it.
Yeah, 1000%, dude.
Yeah. All right. So the October window has just completed, and I got to be honest with you, Adam. I actually quite emphatically really enjoyed the October window. To me, this almost felt like this was like the most complete window under Mauricio Pochettino, where it almost felt like from start to finish, it really felt like Mauricio Pochettino definitely has his hand on this national team for the first time, where it was like, it almost felt like in windows prior, there was like this give and take between the players and the management, with the management trying to instill their philosophy and their beliefs on what a national team is supposed to be. And then the players almost reluctance to kind of buy in, because there's been a certain way that the national team has been handled over the last 6 years, 7 years, whatever the case may be. And it just felt like the players were kind of rebelling a little bit. The results weren't really all that great. The performance was that great. The attitude was absolutely dog shit. But it seemed like this window, specifically this window, it felt like everybody felt like they were moving on the same page. Where there was just a lot of brouhaha over the summer. It just seemed like there was a lot of negativity. But now all of a sudden, we get a roster that is damn near similar to what we're going to see in 2026. And when they stepped on the pitch for the first time against Ecuador, it seemed like the rubber really hit the road. And one of the biggest reasons why I say that, and you and I were talking about a little bit prior, was the fact that in the 70th minute in that first match against Ecuador, Christian Pulisic steps on the field after we heard news reports about the fact that he had like a little ankle tweak. Like a couple of months ago, Christian Pulisic probably doesn't step on the pitch, regardless of what the score was. He probably doesn't do it. But this window, all of a sudden, it was like he stepped on the pitch, and that was kind of surprising because it almost felt like he recognized exactly what the moment was to potentially fish and go get a goal and try to win that thing. And I mean, me personally, I felt like that was actually kind of a big step in the right direction because your guy, the star of the team, was willing to step in and try to go win for his coach. And me personally, that's a sign that Mauricio Pochettino has full control of this national team right now, and all the players are buying in. I don't know how you felt about that.
Yeah, I think that there's something going on where, if you kind of can read between the lines of Pacha's quotes, pre-camp, during camp, there's a lot of like theming surrounding like, hey, I've had to coach culture, attitude, right? All of the non-soccer stuff. We've had to really figure that out, including if you kind of look back over the last year, you're like, oh, there's a little bit of a picture of, I can kind of see it, right? Do I agree with every call and every decision, giving a bunch of guys minutes, some guys minutes that I don't necessarily think there's a ton of, no, but that's okay. There's literally no coach who I would agree with all their decisions. There just isn't, right? Like, so I'm fine looking back. While I was panicking a little bit going into the summer and after the summer, I was like, oh, mainly because it's hard to know if somebody's working hard. It's hard to know if somebody's bought in. It's hard to know if somebody's Phil Jackson on the Bulls or Phil Jackson coaching the Knicks, right? Which are two different Phil Jacksons, and like, is Phil Jackson a good coach? Definitely. But
yeah,
like,
for sure.
which one of those guys signed up to coach the team, right? And that's kind of like, is Pacha a good coach? Definitely. But like, are we getting like, I don't know, like club break Poch collecting money? Are we? And so I don't know. I definitely feel a little bit more like, okay, maybe there is a method to the madness here, a method to some of the stuff that a lot of us haven't agreed with. And a lot of it is like, hey, I'm good. This is a broken culture. And I think a lot of us were thinking, oh, by next summer Gold Cup, you should have it rolling. I was, And when you really sit and think about it, it's like, how many camps did he have before the Gold Cup?
Four.
And then if you look at the Gold Cup, he didn't even get his main guys at the Gold Cup. Like,
correct.
And so even something like the Pulisic thing, right? Well, hey, I want to come for half the camp. For Pacha, it was probably like, hey, if this is a healthy culture, well, I can just see this. I'm not going to say this enough, but I can see him being like, hey, if this is a healthy culture, sure, but we got to make a statement here, right? Like, we just have to. Right. He has needed to make statements culture-wise to be like, yo, guys, like, this is my team, like, and if you want to play, like, buy into what I'm saying, right? And buy into like being all in. And there's a lot of stuff about how he's not, or maybe emphasizing that guys aren't here to play golf and they're not here to go hang out. And they're not here to go to the ski lift and they're not here, all the Berhalter team building stuff. He's like, it's not me. It's not me. It's not us. Correct. And I think a couple things, right? One, when you look at the international timelines, it takes a long time to embed that stuff, right? And I think what we're all hoping, I'm not sure, but I think what we're all hoping is we're starting to see some fruits of maybe some of the groundwork he was trying to lay over the last year. And he all of a sudden did bring in very close to the A+ roster, right? That he could bring in.
Yep.
And he got really good. I think he got the best performances we've seen out of this team, especially when you take into account competition, right? Like the Ecuador game was you said it was great. It was awesome. Like, and we were down 1-0, and I think I tweeted like, "This is great, guys." Like, I don't like being down 1-0. We have the better of it, guys. Like, we have the better of it against a good team, right? Like,
we were actually controlling that entire match
for sure,
start to finish. And the only time Ecuador actually looked like they were competent moving forward was the counterattack in which they scored their goal. And it wasn't really even.
They were fortunate to come out with those. Right? I mean, like,
for sure.
If you play that exact game 10 times, we win 8 of them, honestly. Like,
for sure. Full strength, 100%.
And I always, right, and I get ragged on this sometimes, I'm so process-based, especially with soccer. Because soccer is just so, in small sample size, soccer is brutally random. It's just like, right, and it's beautifully random, too, because if you're an underdog, you can pull off some crazy stuff in soccer. It just rarely happens in a sport like basketball or a sport like baseball. Like, and it's cool, right? And so I don't know. I'm more optimistic than I've been, but I'm cautiously optimistic, right? Because if next camp all of a sudden, you see the culture go down again, and you see some, it's like, oh, maybe that was just a flash in the pan camp, and it wasn't a sign of what's to come. But I think we're all hoping it's a sign of what's to come.
Yeah, and I think in these kind of situations, you kind of have to turn to your leaders a little bit, right? And that to me is one of the biggest issues with this national team is like, number one, who are the leaders, right?
Yeah.
Because when you have the window that we just had, which is kind of interesting, which kind of sums up everything that I think about this national team, is because you can look absolutely fantastic against what I consider a top 10 team in the world. Ecuador is no joke. If you looked at their performance heading over the last year, heading into that match against the U.S., I don't think they had actually lost in a year. They had only conceded 5 goals during CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying, and that team was absolutely on the roll. Yes, of course, they didn't have Moises Caicedo, and they didn't have Hincapi on their defensive line as well too. But that being said, it's still a team that was absolutely brilliant during World Cup qualifying, a team whose identity is built around tough defense that doesn't concede goals. And the U.S. absolutely ran roughshod over them essentially for a good 70 minutes. And that was the first performance where from start to finish, the U.S. actually dominated in more, in a good chunks of the match. And from that standpoint, it was an absolutely beautiful performance. But then that same intensity was not given against Australia. It almost felt like within the same window, they kind of reverted a little bit back. But that being said, it's like the guys who were supposed to be on the pitch against Australia, I guess you can say the Chris Richardses of the world, the guys that are supposed to, essentially be leaders. And I guess you can say Christian Roldan as well too, because prior to the start of the camp, who was front and center in front of the media, and who was the guy that Mauricio Pochettino was essentially glossing and waxing poetically about his leadership skills, right? The eyes and vibes guy of the roster. That's apparently what people have been calling him, is the eyes and vibes. Well, that leadership should have translated in that second game, and it almost felt like everything that they did right against Ecuador was everything they did wrong against Australia. Right. And so there's two different halves of this window that kind of leaves me scratching my head. It's like, well, shit. It's like how is the intensity and the focus against Ecuador here, but then it's like this against Australia? You know what I mean?
I read the second game differently than you. I saw your take is fair, and I saw a lot of people saying that. For me, because I personally think the last 50, 60 minutes of that game, we were really good.
Sure. I do. You're right.
So, but what's this? And this is hard to know. There really is no proving this, right? But soccer especially strikes me as a game, because you don't have coaches with timeouts, you don't have breaks between plays. Like, tactical wrinkles can really win a game. Like, if you're doing things it's what makes soccer cool, like in a way, right? Where it's like, you really have to coach your guys to be flexible, to adjust, to be able to hear one thing you say and understand how to flex the game plan, right? Because you just can't. Basketball, literally, I call timeout. I got a minute and a half to adjust, right? Football, you get your whole offense on the sideline for 10 straight minutes. In soccer, you just don't. So I read the beginning of the game more as I think what Australia was doing was kind of baffling us. And I think, yes, we definitely did not look spry and playing hard. But to me in soccer, that always happens when you're baffled by stuff. Maybe guys could go after, loose balls a little bit harder, et cetera. But I feel like as soon as we cracked, which was kind of past the first half of the first half, I feel like we kind of started to crack what they were doing a little bit, and we started to look more fluid with the ball and create more chances. And second half, I thought it was great, and we created a ton of chances and had really dangerous moments. True. And so I don't know. I read it a little different, but I do think the point still stands that we have to be consistent enough to be able to come out against a worse team and play better, right? And whether that's because of effort, which is the way you read it, or whether it's because of, tactics, you got to kind of, because honestly, the Australia game could have ended up being a draw, which is not what you would want to see against a team of that level, right? You'd want to see us winning against a team of that level. So consistency has been a big pain point for the last 3 years now, right? And
Right.
the goal has to be to become more consistent with what we're doing. And especially, I don't know if you're going to talk about the back line and what we're doing in the back.
Yeah,
It's got to be more consistent, man. Like, we just can't. We were great for 80-90% of that. I don't know. We were pretty dominant defensively in those two games. That's what's kind of silly to me. And you let up 2 goals in like 2 really bad defensive moments. It wasn't moments of brilliance. It wasn't the Jamaica goal from World Cup qualifying, a 40-yard banger. Like, I can kind of live with that stuff, right? It's like we're stretched out and then we're given Enter Valencia like a one-on-one with Richards, like for no reason. They didn't earn that 1v1, you know? And then Richards also doesn't come up with it, right? Which is disappointing to me. But like, and it's the same thing with the goal in the Australia game. It's like, why are we, deflecting the ball into the 18 onto a guy's foot? And then why can't we have 2 guys handle one guy in the box who's not Messi? Like, we're not, so it's just those moments are still, that's inconsistency though, right? And it's like, we've got to build more solidity in the back, because those are backbreakers in a World Cup. Like, those kind of goals can equal going through or not going through.
That's exactly right. And that's the thing. It's like, and again, it gets back to it. To me, it gets back a little bit back to the leadership, right? Because it almost felt like at moments they just switched off, right? That goal against Enter Valencia, it almost felt like Chris Richards got caught ball watching, right? When that ball gets turned over in the midfield against Ecuador, and their first opportunity to get forward, and they place a nice pass into the foot onto the foot of Enter Valencia, who cuts in, makes a run, and Chris Richards is like, what just happened again? You know what I mean? And then he has to instantly react.
How it got there is so problematic, dude. Like, Aiden Morris came way out of where he needed to be, gambled for a pass. There was like 3 actions before Richards, and that's just like how soccer works, right? Is like,
correct.
To score a goal, typically you need, 3 things, 5 things, 10 things to go your way. And it's like, and to give up a goal, it's the same thing. You have to fail multiple. There are like, I'm forgetting the word, right? But there are multiple fail safes in soccer. Like, you have got fail safes on a lot of different levels to stop goal scoring opportunities. And like, I went back and rewatched that play. We missed like 4 fail safes. And it's like, come on, like, somebody has to figure out how to do the right thing in that moment to stop that goal. There's just too much opportunity, and not enough really good, like, either team play or 1v1 play by them that I was like, sometimes guys just make plays and you're like, holy crap, that was special, right? But
question from Ace Leonel, who says, good afternoon. I have a question for y'all. What's your opinion about Milan making a statement about Pulisic's injury and blasting Pochettino's mishandling of it? Yeah, I don't know, man. I look at it. I look at it for what it is, right? The club is always going to be protective of their asset because obviously that's where the bread and butter is at the club. But that being said, is this going to make or break Milan's season? I guess it's depending on the severity of the injury. To me, actually, what was interesting is when Australia jumped into that tackle, it didn't look like it was that severe of a tackle. It just looked like it was like a little bit of rubbing of the spikes against his Achilles heel, his Achilles tendon, but it didn't look like it was even that brutal of a tackle, to be honest with you. To me, I thought Pochettino was taking him off just as a precaution, which I was perfectly fine with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's overly sensitive. I mean, you're AC Milan. All of your players play for national teams for the whole history of your program. Yeah. Like, your guys are banged up a little bit sometimes, and they still go. Like, I don't know, if you guys really didn't think he could go and play, then you got to like be really strong with your guy that he can't go. Right. But like, I don't know, he didn't play him in the first. He played him for 20 minutes in the first game, and then he started him and probably was only going to play him for 60 minutes. I bet he would have subbed him. Like, so I don't know, what are you expecting? Like, the dude can't play 70, 80 minutes in the window. Like, I don't know, that's just so overly sensitive. Like.
Right, that's exactly right. And I was saying during the live stream, it's like I would probably assume with certain guys there is time restriction, time limits that are already set in by the club with the national team, and that's the thing. It's like this national team tends to acquiesce to the club more often than not.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure parameters were already in place prior to the window. And, it's like, AC Milan's bitching about it. It's like, nah, whatever. Like, I don't care.
It's soccer, man. He's going to play, and yes, he could get hurt.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But that's why you have insurance on the player, right?
Right. You're not going to expect all of your national teams to not play your guys, even if they have a little knock or they're, just unrealistic. Like, nobody would ever play for a national team then, right? Like,
that's exactly right. But I remember the brouhaha after the Nations League when Canada played Alphonso Davies in that third place game, and then he gets hurt. And it's like, well, guess what, man? That's unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's soccer.
Yeah,
guys will easily get hurt. All right. So you mentioned the back line, and I thought it was actually kind of interesting. In that I'm sure a lot of people read the name of the 5 center backs that came in. And I would probably assume that most were expecting Tim Ream and Chris Richards, but I don't think anybody was really expecting Miles Robinson to get on the pitch. Just considering the Miles Robinson that we saw prior to the Achilles injury, and the Miles Robinson that's kind of been since that injury. But that being said, he steps on the pitch. He's given a start on the right-hand side of that back three against Ecuador, and he played well. And then he gets another start against Australia, and again, he played well. Albeit, Tim Ream only plays one, and then Mark McKenzie plays the second game. And I was actually quite impressed with the performance of Miles Robinson. But that being said, I don't know, man. Mark McKenzie kind of left me wanting a little bit more. Like, if you're going to make a like for like substitution, and that's what people want. That people don't want Tim Ream on this back line, right? People have been clamoring for Mark McKenzie to get game time, and Pochettino says, "Okay, cool, man. Here's your boy. Here's your boy." And it almost seemed like it was almost a lackluster performance from McKenzie in both matches. To me, I actually thought that Miles Robinson was probably the most consistent of the three, and that's including Chris Richards, who, by the way, up until this camp has actually been playing pretty well.
Yeah, I don't know. I to be honest, the whole back line left me wanting a little bit more, but they were fine. I mean, to be honest, I actually thought Chris Richards was really good outside of the 4 1v1s where he just got destroyed, which is very confusing to me because we see him in the Prem handle really good attackers 1v1. At the rate you'd expect the center back to do it, right? Which isn't perfect, but I mean, he was getting. I think it's very loud when you get beat 1v1, right? But what's very quiet is like some of the ways that you intercept balls that could lead to danger, and kind of like what I was saying, right? If you're an intervention point, if you're consistently intervention point 1 when there probably still would have had to be 2 or 3 more to lead to a goal. It's not very loud. People don't notice it a lot, right?
Sure.
And that's one of the things that I love about Chris Richards is he's constantly if you really watch, he's constantly breaking stuff up before it can get dangerous. And I thought he was really good. I thought there were a couple of very big moments where he did that. One was like we were totally busted on a through ball against Australia, I think. And he came out of nowhere to fly in the air and get a toe on the ball and kind of break. The dude was in 1v1 though. It was like a disaster. And that's the thing, when I watch Miles, right? Definitely solid camp. I don't have much negative to say about him. I don't have much negative to say about McKenzie. For me at least, neither of them had an exceptional camp or games, and neither of them really weren't bad. I would be totally fine seeing Miles Robinson again. I'd be totally fine seeing McKenzie. Neither also did anything for me that was like, oh, I see it. That's the guy. Center back's tough though, man. There's not, it's like
for me,
not a lot of glory, and you're just kind of out there waiting to mess up, and then people highlight your mess up,
Well, I thought a lot of it had to do with chemistry because, as you know, right, soccer is all about pairs and partnerships and some of these type of things. And let's be perfectly honest, right? Tim Ream has essentially held down the left side of whether it's a back four in a dual center back pairing or a back three. He's gotten the most minutes at that position, right? Mark McKenzie has literally not gotten minutes with the national team, and it kind of showed a little bit, right? Because it looked like he was a little bit rusty out there. But that being said, it's also, when you're kind of looking at his partnerships with Tim Weah at that left wing back, it kind of felt like their spacing was off, their timing was off, and it just seemed like they couldn't even coordinate on passes. It looked clunky on that left side, right? Now, don't get me wrong, was it clunky to the point where teams were trying to exploit that side of the pitch? Not really, but like in a vacuum, you're kind of looking at it like, well, yeah, it's not that I don't think that Mark McKenzie can perform. That's not it at all. Just like Chris Richards with Crystal Palace. I mean, Mark McKenzie at Toulouse is actually, is very good. But that being said, it's like, that's when you're training every single day with your center back pairing, you're going to develop that chemistry where you're actually going to know exactly where everybody's on at the pitch, those type of things. You're going to be able to read each other's minds. And I think that was actually more along the lines with that than anything else, right? That because of, again, these guys just don't play a lot at the national team. They really don't. So from that standpoint, to me, that's just what I thought it was more than anything else.
No, I mean, I'll go on record. I'm not a huge Mark McKenzie guy. I've never been a massive believer.
I hear you.
I think he's fine. Once again,
I think he's wrong.
That's my problem. Player, not overly inspiring for me. Not someone I've ever felt super passionate about in terms of like he's got to get more. And to be honest, this is kind of how I feel right now. So there's two spots: center back and really like what we're our midfielders, right, which are kind of sitting a little bit in the double pivot, right, kind of playing a little dual six. They rotate roles, right? You got some guys kind of going box to box a little bit more, but that position is like, put them in a bag right now and just like pull them out. And it's kind of like we've been trying them all out, right? But what we're seeing is 1 game sample sizes, and people are like, James said 1 game, I'm done. And I'm like, well, like, maybe, like I thought Morris was pretty poor, honestly. I just didn't.
I did too. I did too.
And so it's like done. Roldan, good game. Starting, it's like whoa, like
yeah. Calm down.
Always whoa, just like. And I hope people can draw, and I hope the coaches certainly are drawing from a bigger sample size. Hopefully they're watching the club. They understand. You've said it in the show. They understand the fit. They understand what they're looking for out of certain guys, and they're able to identify the guys through national team performance in games. And you got to remember, these guys are training, and they're seeing them, kind of on the training pitch. And then also club stuff, they're going to make the best informed decision to bring in the right guy. But man, as fans, it's tough. Like, I'll be honest, like, I kind of envy people who are like, no, that guy sucks. And I'm like, okay. I get shocked. Like some people just don't like Miles Robinson, right? So they're naturally inclined to go, Miles is a liability. And I'm like, I didn't see him being a liability in this game.
I didn't see him being that's the thing. It's like you're so warped. It's like you're so warped and jaded because he plays in Major League Soccer. And it's like, listen, man, I get it. Would I prefer bringing in center backs that have been sharpening the edges of their game in the Premier League? Yeah, I really would.
Who are those guys, right? Like, and that's the problem we have, though, right? It's like,
right.
You look at the midfield, it's like who, like it. Johnny, okay, well, he's hurt or he doesn't perform for us, and I'm not saying that should mean he's out, but I'm just saying, like, I haven't seen that yet. Like, some people are like, Johnny's the answer, and I'm like, is he?
Is he though?
I wish I had your confidence. Like, I hope he is. The dude's playing at a really high level for club, over the last 2 years, and he seems to be a guy, but like he has yet to bring it. And people are like, well, he got hurt. Well, he got this. It's like, I get it, but like, it's unfortunate. But once again, like, you are saying you are 100% sure, and I'm saying, like, I see the upside, but I haven't seen it on the field yet, and I'd like to see it before I also jump in and say yes. But it does deserve more investment. It deserves more investment when you are playing guys like, James Sands and Aiden Morris, who are both playing well at club, at different levels. But there's, Johnny is a better player than those guys. I agree. He does need more time. He does need to integrate. But man, that spot's open. Goalkeeper, totally open. Center back, totally open. Ream, Richards.
Yeah, I disagree with you on the goalkeeper situation. I think it's over. I think that race is over.
It might be. But
unless Matt Freese gets injured or it has a dip in form.
It might be over, right? But what has Matt Freese done other than the PK?
Yeah, no, I get it.
I mean, like, and I actually like Matt Freese. Remember, I liked him. And I was like, when he came in, I tweeted, "Oh, nice! This is awesome! Like, I'm excited to see Freese. Like, this is a guy I was hoping we would get a chance." But I've seen it a lot, and I'm not going to be super biased and say, "Well, I liked him, so he's my guy." Like, I was hoping to see him save a goal, right? And as a goalie, you either save goals or you don't, right? Or you let up goals, right? It's like three things. You're just like you're always in three states. You are allowing a goal. Allowing a goal means like you did something to cause the goal. Those are bad. You don't want those, right? Freese hasn't really done that. That's great. That's the baseline for a pro keeper, though, right? Like the second thing is you allow goals. Like, guys get opportunities and they put it in the net. And the third one is you save goals. And a saved goal, right? Timmy Howard had 17 of those in 2014, right? Like Matt Turner, we've seen over time, he's saved goals. I am yet to see Matt Freese save a goal. And this campy had 2 goals that were gettable. Now, they were not expected and they were not mistakes and they were not allowed goals, but they were ones that professional keepers would look at and be like, you can come up with that. Like, you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for it. Because, like, my thing, Steve, and I agree with you. I think it is done. I think he will be the keeper into the World Cup. And I'll cross my fingers that we'll get some of those miraculous saves in the right moments. But you're going to, and same thing at center back in the 6. People will be like, well, who else? I'm like, I agree. I don't have anyone else. I don't know. Right. But, and maybe there isn't. Maybe this is literally the best we have, is like a professional keeper who's going to be sound, who will be above average against PKs, and he's not going to allow goals, but he's probably also not going to come up with spectacular. Maybe that is the best we have. That's disappointing to me. And to me, it should be an open comp. There are other professional keepers in MLS who can stop shots. We've seen that. And I would just see if anybody else, like almost like but those guys are right? Hot hand theory. Like, I would go kind of hot hand here because I just don't see Freese is good enough to like have the job. I think he does.
But the problem is we don't have a Tim Howard that's playing over at Everton. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have that.
Tim Howard at Everton, then he's just locked into the job, Steve. Like, I get it. But what I'm saying is who's the hot hand? That's my point, right? Like, who is it? Okay. Well, you have 8 months to figure that out for sure.
Well, but that's the thing. It's like you're picking from a pool of Major League Soccer goalkeepers, though. At this point, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. That's my problem, right? It's like we don't have a Tim Howard or a Brad Friedel or a Casey Keller that's applying their trade at a very high level, where in other windows we actually had those type of options, to the point where it's like it kind of picks itself. But now it's like we have a collection of Major League Soccer goalies now, and it's like, is it going to be Chris Brady? Well, if it's Chris Brady, then it's like, then why didn't we see him on? Why didn't we see him? You know what I mean? We had Chris Brady, Patrick Schulte, Matt Turner, and I actually thought Matt Turner probably might actually get a start against Australia. That was my expectation, right? Because this was Matt Turner's first call up to the national team in quite some time.
I would like to see Matt. I mean, I haven't watched New England. All of Matt Turner's metrics, shot stopping, are better than Freese's in MLS this year. When I looked, like every single metric.
Sure.
So like I don't know. He's playing now. Like, I get that Turner wasn't very good when he wasn't playing. He's playing. Like, I would give Turner another shot. I mean, honestly, I would too, actually. I would pick you can't go 10 guys, but I would certainly pick a crop of 3. I would do what he's doing at the 6. That's kind of my point. Like, he's doing the right thing at the 6. He's trying different guys out, and he's seeing who is going to bring it. And I would just do that at goal. I don't see, if we had Friedel, I'd get why it's so set, but we don't have Friedel. So why are we so set on who the keeper is? I'm glad we had that combo, because I've been pretty passionate about that one the last couple of days.
Yeah, well, that is where I kind of land on it. It's like, if apparently Pochettino thinks that Matt Freese is the best of the MLS keepers. If there was somebody overseas where he could actually rotate with, that actually made sense. I think the only guy overseas right now is Ethan Horvath at Sheffield Wednesday, and it's
overseas. I don't really care about, though, with goalkeeper. I've always said that's overrated. People have gotten on me for that.
I agree.
saving. People were like, "Oh, Matt Turner!" Like when Matt Turner was saving a lot of shots for New England in his first, like he was like worldwide elite shot stopping there for a season, right? And it translated to national team for a while. Like people were like, "It's MLS though," and I'm like, "No, guys. As a goalie, shots are taken on you, like, and they're hard to stop. Like, and a shot from an MLS guy point blank, and a shot from Ronaldo, right? Like." Yes, it's probably more consistent from Ronaldo, but a good shot's a good shot. A hard save is a hard save, right? Are there more you might have to make? Like, I don't even know if that's true. Defenses are better at higher levels, so you don't like. There's like it's a whole. You go down like a wormhole with it, but like my point is like I don't even care about MLS that. I am pretty passionate about MLS versus higher level leagues at a lot of positions because I think good performance in higher level leagues as a midfielder will probably translate more consistently, right? We're seeing it doesn't always, but like. More consistently, it probably will. So I would like to see that invested in more. When it comes to goalie, right, I actually think, like, once again, if we had somebody starting in the Prem, that's telling you a lot, right? We don't have that. So, like, fine, we have 10 MLS goalies that are, potentials. Pick your 3 favorite and go. But you're right. I think Poch, for whatever reason, he seems to have seen enough with Freeze that's his guy. But I'm here to give opinions, and my opinion is I haven't seen enough, right? So
fair enough. Yeah, the interesting thing is like when it comes to goalkeeper, I don't care where you're playing as long as you're playing, right? Because in Major League Soccer, there is an advantage between the attack and the defense, right? It's that the DP rule is almost certainly going to give attacks far more advantages than defense because Major League Soccer teams do not use their DP spots on defense. Right, they use them into the attack, and so what you have is this imbalance between attack and defense, and that means that goalkeepers are going to face far more shots in Major League Soccer than they will across the pond, and that means your goalkeepers in Major League Soccer are facing far more shots because the defenses that really are just that bad. And so, from that standpoint, if you have a goalkeeper that's on the national team applying his trade in Major League Soccer, the one thing that that he's facing is shots, which means his form is going to be consistently on in Major League Soccer. And I actually think a goalkeeper can get ready for a World Cup in Major League Soccer, whereas I don't think that a striker, versus a striker or a winger, is going to be accurately get prepared for a World Cup playing in Major League Soccer than they would across the seas, just considering the defenses are that much better.
In the best leagues, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, speaking of which, because I want to, we're about the 42-minute mark, and so we're coming up on the final 10 minutes here. I want to ask you this question because you and I see this all the time, and I'm sure you see it as much as I see it. There is this weird dichotomy within the U.S. men's national team fan base. It almost seems like it's split right down the middle between like Euro snobs and then like guys like, well, it's not even guys like me, but it's like then you have the guys that constantly just fucking shill for a league here in the United States, right? And I think you said it right before the show, and you're absolutely right about this, right? Shilling is shilling, and it doesn't necessarily matter what you're shilling for, right? And it almost feels like those that are dead set that the national team should be a collection of your best European-based players. Well, quite honestly, I hate to say this, you're kind of hypocrite because you're also shilling for the other side as well too, right? It's like you have drawn your line in the sand, and you're like, these guys over here are better than these guys over here. And what's funny is like when you add historical context into it, it's like you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about because Major League Soccer, the nexus of Major League Soccer was to augment the national team. That's exactly what it was created for back in '94, right? It was to develop the American player, to also push up the baseline for the national team. And that's why Major League Soccer has always been a part of the national team. And this wasn't even a conversation 10 years ago. When like in the 2014, when Graham Zusi and Kyle Beckerman made the team, nobody was shouting from the rooftop, well, they play in Major League Soccer. Nobody was saying that. They were like, oh, okay, cool. I can understand exactly why they made the team because depth at certain positions wasn't exactly where it needed to be. And because Jurgen Klinsmann had to go out and get Fabian Johnson and Jermaine Jones, not Jermaine Jones, but you get what I'm saying. It's like they had to get Julian Green and Fabian Johnson and some of these other guys because depth was so bad at certain positions where it's like they didn't even have a Major League Soccer counterpoint to be able to play in that position. But there's also certain positions where certain tactical certain tactical switches almost made like certain players a little bit more useful than others. Major League Soccer players are going to be a part of the national team regardless, right? And like when it comes to this conversation, it's like, listen, man, Poch plays a very specific style, and when he's looking across the player pool and he's looking at how different coaches use some of their players, it doesn't necessarily tactically fit, and he doesn't necessarily have the time. Like if he had a 4-year cycle where he can bring guys in and he can actually spoon feed them, playing certain positions and actually convey that message of exactly what he needs, maybe it's something different. But he had 18 months. He didn't have a full cycle in order to implement the things that he needed to implement. And so unfortunately, he's going to call in guys that play for teams that actually kind of mirror his style. Maybe not to an exact T, but if they're kind of playing if they're kind of playing the similar style, some of these guys can come in automatically and hit the ground running, knowing exactly what he's actually asking for. And sometimes that's going to be Major League Soccer.
Yeah, I mean, I think like anything, especially online, a line gets drawn and both sides like almost like lob grenades over the line and just
It's true.
push the line back, right? So it's just like almost like a game. It's funny for me because I find myself a bit more neutral. I'm called a Euro snob, probably a little bit more than I'm called an MLS shill, but I have been called an MLS shill weirdly. Definitely people who don't follow me and who don't track my tweets regularly because I'm like, I don't think you follow me, man. But I say this because like what we'll see, right, is something to the degree of, there are a lot of paid accounts, right, on the MLS side, whether it's directly from MLS or just like through the soccer network here, right? And how it works is like, you are paid to support MLS in a lot of ways as a soccer journalist in the United States. If you don't, you're not going to have access. You're just not. That's just a fact, right? That's fine. That's how business works. That is what it is. Like, but I also like a lot of people see through that, right? Because that is very true and very fair. And people see through that and they're like, well, that's BS. And you're lying to me and you're not being authentic. And a lot of the stuff people put out there is just not authentic. And it's like, I know you're smarter than this. I know you don't believe that take. And then it just goes the other way where they're like, well, everything in Europe, there's a bit of ignorance, young fans especially.
Yeah.
I think who have some ignorance here don't really get that, like, that don't get that we watched Josie score 30 goals in Eredivisie, right? Like 15 years ago, and then go to the Prem and absolutely flop, right? And he still wasn't, he's good. He's Josie, but it wasn't like the 30 goals in Eredivisie didn't mean he was a dude. It just meant he played in Netherlands, right? Like, and if you watch enough, you're like, oh, I get it. Like,
I get it.
Being good in Netherlands means you could be good, but it doesn't mean you're definitely going to be good. Same thing with a championship, right? Like, you could translate, or it might not. Josh Sargent, Haji, right? I mean, I say all that because like everybody's getting driven this way, right?
Right.
And so and then like anything in society, Democrat, Republican, whatever. It's like all of your views need to line up over here or else you are that. So everybody has to stay in a line and everybody has to stay in a line. And that's where I find myself in life, not just in soccer, but like in life, I often find myself here throwing it this way and throwing one that way and being like, I agree with you guys. Like, so in this argument, it's like really interesting to me because,
I find it fascinating actually, because I watch soccer. That's the thing. It's like, I watch soccer. This has nothing to like. Listen, I don't give a shit about the EPL as much as I don't give a shit about I care about the clubs and I care about the players, which is why I watch soccer, right? So when I watch Major League Soccer, I know for a fact I'm not watching the best league on earth, but I don't necessarily care because I'm looking at individual performance, right? So when I'm looking at a specific player, I'm actually looking at the individual performance relative to the team and relative to what they're actually doing, right? So like for instance, Christian Roldan, it's like. I've watched that dude since he was since 2016 when he actually came through, and I've watched the evolution of that player. And it's like, he's played his career in Major League Soccer. Okay, whatever. I could care less. But I've actually seen the improvement to the point where dude's won every single trophy in North America there is to win. Right. And it's like I'm sure there's a certain level over there if you wanted to go over there. But the reality is, if he was over there, this conversation isn't happening. That's the weird thing. That's the weird. That to me, that is the weird. That is the weird hypocritical thing about this entire conversation, right? Because it's like there's certain guys that can translate, but they don't. But just because they play in one league doesn't necessarily automatically qualify them for the national team. That to me is where I actually lose my patience, because it's like, dude, you have no idea what the fucking national team is then.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a couple of things I always point to when I get in this argument, right? The absolute argument of no MLS player can ever play for the national team, right? And if you ask me if I lean to more MLS, less MLS, I definitely lean less MLS.
Yeah, sure.
But
sure.
It's situational, right? And like, certainly, like the one that proves it is you got his jersey behind you, right? Like,
yeah.
When Clint was playing in MLS, he was our best player. Like, there was no question about that.
Yeah.
And like, he was in MLS. So like, you can't, and you could be like, oh, well, that's one guy. It was back in the day. It's like, well, not really. Like, Ricardo Pepi was in MLS saving our ass in World Cup qualifying. He's literally an MLS striker. Like, well, but he's not an MLS striker. He's about to move. I'm like, but he was playing in MLS. So like, yeah, I agree, right? I agree. Clint, first of all, still could have played in Europe, 100%, right? Ricardo was about to go play in Europe, right? But like, you absolutely can find guys in MLS at certain different points of their career, different type. That can happen for sure. You also might find guys in MLS who fit a very specific role. Maybe it's a, end of the bench kind of vibes leadership thing. Like, for sure you could find that, right? Where it also, so that's kind of one side of it, right? It's like, yes, you can find MLS guys. That's proven, right? Let's not say MLS no, whatever, Eredivisie, yes. Like, to me, that's silly. That's absolutism, right? Let's say why no, right? Which I always try to get. Here's why no to this MLS guy for me, right? And here's why yes for this Eredivisie guy. Or honestly, why no often for me with an Eredivisie guy. I'm like, I don't see it, right? But like, when you kind of get into the nuance of it, which to me is the interesting thing about soccer conversation and watching soccer, is it's nuance. It's not black and white. Is you start to really see, oh, okay, MLS probably is getting, if you're in MLS right now, I think you get more opportunity than if you're in a lower level European league. You don't get as much love from a certain segment of the fan base, but you get more opportunity to play for the national team. Fair or unfair, that is true. I don't necessarily think that's a great thing. I think that it's been much harder for certain guys who are starting to play well in leagues that are similar to MLS, maybe a little worse, a little better. And it's been harder for some of those guys to actually get looks on the national team. And that's not good either, right? Because like, you do have guys who are trying to go push themselves. They're trying to elevate their career. And to me, that's an admirable thing. And they start to play well. And then for some reason that becomes a wall there. And to me, that's a bad thing, because that's going to equal a lot of players in decision-making time going, well, I'll just play in MLS.
Right.
I'll get paid a little bit more, and which they do, by the way. We haven't even talked about that. Like, the money is a real thing. Like, why isn't gone to Europe?
Paxton Ernst's a very good, very good example of that.
Well, Dan, there's zero way Roldan makes what he makes in MLS anywhere in Europe, right? Like, there's no chance. Zimmerman was the same thing. He could have gone to play in Europe somewhere.
Right.
He's like, I'm making a boatload of money. Like,
right. Like, why would I leave?
But that's that stuff isn't great for the national team. Like, it's good for MLS, and it's good for the growth of, United States kind of like domestic club soccer, because having better players here is good for that level. But for the national team, I do think it's really important that our best talent pushes themselves. And that doesn't always mean go to Europe as early as possible either, which some people think, right? Once again, absolutely. Right. Sometimes it means go at 20. Sometimes it means go at 21. Sometimes it means go at 16 before you even get there, right? There is no answer. There's no cookie cutter approach. But I would like to have a system in place, which I don't think is possible. This is a little bit of, utopian by me. I'd like to have a system in place that rewards guys for going to push themselves up the ladder, because there is a ladder in world soccer in a way that doesn't, maybe it exists in other sports, but it's just so clear in soccer. There's a ladder. There's lower levels and uppers and mids and the top, right? And to get to the top, you just can't play in MLS your whole career. It just doesn't happen, you know? And for our best young guys to get really good, they need to go on this journey to get there. And I'm a bit worried, you know, it's more of a big picture convo, but I'm a bit worried that the way that this is all going to shake out over the next 4 years is we're going to create a lot of incentive for guys to come to MLS. And I'm not sure that's going to be a great thing for the national team, but it might be a really good thing for the MLS. It could help the MLS grow, which maybe long-term is good for the national team. I don't know, but in the short term, I see some downside.
Well, the interesting thing is, like, I think this is a recency issue, because the reality was, like, that was a thing back in the day, where if a player went to Europe, regardless of what age he went to Europe, and he was actually playing well, he got rewarded with call-ins. That was that was under Bradley, that was under Arena, that was under Jurgen for a little bit there. But that being said, it's like, you know, that like, people forget when Bobby Wood came in. I think Bobby Wood was playing over in Germany, and he didn't get called in for a little bit because he wasn't necessarily performing well. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was playing in Europe. It was all based on performance. And when he actually played well, he got called in, right? So there are instances where, you know, performance actually mattered, regardless of the situation that they found themselves in. It just seems like over the last 5 years, it's kind of reverted the other way, to your point, where it almost feels like the goal of the national team was to highlight essentially be an extension of Major League Soccer. That it feels like the last 5 years there's been more of that.
It does, and I don't fully buy into the full-on conspiracy theories that are behind that. And there's a lot of them, and
I don't either.
I see why people think it, right? It's kind of like the JFK assassination. Like, I get it. You dig in deep enough, you're like, okay, I see why you think somebody's on the grassy knoll. You know, I'm not sure they were, but, like, you know, I see it. There's some shady stuff going on, and that's kind of what's happening here, right? There's some smoke, right?
Yeah.
And the fire probably is that, like, the two things are closely aligned because they're closely aligned, right? I mean, they just are.
Right.
They just are naturally aligned. Is there a quota? No. Are MLS guys getting more opportunity for certain systemic reasons? Yes, I do think that's true.
Sure.
January camp being a big one, right? And I don't even blame the coaches, man. Like, I was saying this the other day, and it's such an interesting part.
The January camp is all in the federation, right? Because they have TV spots they have to fill in the early part of the year.
Correct.
And that's the only
But what ends up happening, right? The way it's structured, right? MLS isn't creating the January camp. We agree, right? Like,
right.
But the way it's structured is you get all MLS guys, right? And I think it's a lengthier camp. It's not just like a weekend, basically. It's like,
it's a full month. It's a full month.
Right. So you get them in. And as a coach, this is where I go back to my coaching instincts. And I'm like, oh, if I invested 3 weeks in a guy, you know, that's a lot of investment. Like, I'm going to get to know guys, love guys. You know, we're not even seeing them play against good comp. So maybe I'll read into things and I'll be like, ooh, that can translate. And then when we get to the next camp, it's like, damn, I just spent 3 weeks on that group of guys. Am I really going to bring none of them in March?
Right.
Like, that's like just the way that's systemically, you were going to bring those January camp guys forward more than you probably should. Like,
right. Which is why Patrick Aubameyang and Diego Luna.
1,000%. And so, like, you get some things out of that, right, that can be construed as like a quota. And really, it's like, no, a coach fell in love with that guy in January camp.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not, January camp isn't a MLS invention, right? But MLS players benefit drastically from that. That is a big edge for them when it comes to national team exposure and trust with the coach, all that stuff, you know? So
correct. For sure. And but that being said, it's like, for every who was a part of January camp that believed that, for every Clint Dempsey that cut their bones in January camp and were able to use that to get on a World Cup roster and then bounce themselves over to Europe, right? They're far and few in between, right? The cream generally rises to the crop, and you kind of figure out exactly who's talented and who's not, right? I think, it's interesting as far as Patrick Aubameyang and Diego Luna, man, those guys unfortunately are not Clint Dempsey. You know what I mean? Like, that's the that's it's funny because I was having a conversation about the level of talent in Major League Soccer and the relative development comparative to what it was 30 years ago. And it's like, was there a different quality 30 years ago? Maybe. But those guys, when they came into Major League Soccer, they were already 24, 25, right? Because they were playing in other leagues, whether it was the APSL or whether they went to college or whatever the case may be. So I think there was a little bit more refinement with some of those players back then than they are today. But that being said, it's like, me personally, I don't think it's a talent issue. I think it's a coaching issue, but that's just me. But it is what it is, right? So we're going to leave it right there. Adam, I want to thank you, man, for coming on. Overall, man, I thought this was a great window, and I'm hoping that the rubber hits the road in the November window, because they're two very good teams in Paraguay and Uruguay that are going to be absolutely relentless. Right. And it's going to be more like Ecuador than it is going to be against Australia. There's not going to be a soft landing in the second game. It's going to be two teams that, quite frankly, right, you're going to have to get a result, right? These are the type of guys, these are the type of teams that you find in the round of 16 in a World Cup, right? So we're going to find out. We're going to find out in the November window just exactly what this team is made of.
It was a great window, man. It was awesome. Yeah. It was exactly what this program's needed, which is elevation, elevation from where we've been. And we really haven't had that in a long time. It's been a long time since we went into a camp, and I was like, nice. That was better than the camp before. It's just exactly kind of right. It's just kind of been and honestly, sometimes it's just been like this, but like it's been this constant like drudgery, and it's exciting it's at least exciting, and international is great because you get a month to believe it, right? It's not going to be proven wrong this weekend, like in club it will be. Like we get a month to like believe, okay, we're going somewhere, and then like you said, the rubber will hit the road next month. And like, listen, growth doesn't. This is my reminder to everybody: growth doesn't happen like this, right? And it does. If we don't beat Uruguay, that is not the end of the world. They're really freaking good, right? Like, but let's go play well again. Let's go create chances. Let's be more consistent defensively. Let's process stuff, right? Like that's what I'm kind of looking for.
I agree, man. Thank you guys for tuning in, man. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons and turn on your notification bells as we prepare for the November window. And also, you don't want to miss any of the content coming up as well, too. So thank you guys, and take care. Have a great weekend, guys. Good night.